Black History Month!
Black History Month started by a man named Carter G. Woodson, who was the second African American to get a PhD from Harvard, and he was concerned that when black people started going to school, that there would not be the representation of African American histories in schools. And so he decided to start something called Negro History Week, and Negro is what a long time ago black people were called Negro. And so it was Negro History Week in 1924, I believe, and he created that week and spread the word about that week, so people started to celebrate the accomplishments of black people for a week. As time went on, as there was a civil rights movement and a black consciousness movement, people thought, why just a week? Let's make it a month. And so the week was originally in February because it documented the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, who helped to free the slaves, and Frederick Douglass, who was also an abolitionist who fought against slavery. And so that week became a month in the 60s, and in the United States we've been celebrating Black History Month since then. It's just not an opportunity for kids to learn, it's an opportunity for everybody to learn. So this might be that month that you pick up a good book by a black author, or you go see a movie that has an all black cast, or just support what's going on in the black community, and not just support it but embrace it as a part of American culture and not just black culture. I feel like I have a pioneer living in my house. So my husband had a sports radio talk show called The Two Live Stews, and Sports Illustrated did an article on them because they were the first all-black sports talk show in the nation ever. And that was just in 2007. And so that's not that, for the kids, that's probably a long time ago, but that's not that long ago for people to still be trailblazing, to still be being the first. And so even though it's history, and I always teach this to my kids, how history is so connected to today. Even though there are lots of things in history, there are still people who are actually doing things for the first time in the black community today. In lots of communities. So you still see people who are the first sportscasters, the first, on certain television shows, they're the first big business owner and stuff like that. And so there's still a long ways to go because we're still working on accepting everybody for who they are. But history is so connected to what we do today, so it doesn't stop. So there'll always be history. So there's always going to be a Black History Month because there's always going to be a first. It's really a celebration of all the great things that black people from around the world who live in the United States have contributed to American history. After the 60s, when it became a month, there were lots of movements after that where black people became very aware of where they're from and their roots in Africa, and became very conscious and started wearing afros and different clothes, dashikis, things that represented the connection to Africa. And so black people became more conscious of their connections around the world. It's morphed from just studying like black people who have done something in the past to people recognizing that there are modern day people who are breaking barriers in the African American community. So if you think of somebody like Misty Copeland, who became this ballerina, and little black girls or boys can now look up to her and say, yeah, there was a black ballet dancer who did this great thing, and now I can be that. I think we can look at history, but we can also look at contemporary people and how they're kind of breaking the barriers in terms of race and identity and stuff like that. I think that Black History Month is important. First of all, I'm black all year round, so black history is important to me all the time. I think highlighting the month is important because then people get a deeper understanding of the contributions and can focus their understanding and know that there are people who have done this, and it gives people a time period and time to reflect and think about it and give kids the right information, or give people the right information about how African Americans have contributed. I like to say that black history is American history. Like, it shouldn't be an aside, but that as black people we are American, and it's my history, it's your history, it's everybody's history, so we all should know it. There is a need for a Black History Month in schools, specifically for young people, because for a long time ago, African Americans or black people were treated unfairly, and so by being treated unfairly, it it caused black people to not be able to do a lot of the things that other people could do at that time because they were enslaved or they were not allowed to do things. And so by having a Black History Month, it celebrates the fact that we as Americans decided to get rid of all those bad things or work on throwing away the bad things and allowing or having equal rights among people, so now those same people who were treated badly can do great things. And it shows that not only can they do great things, that they do it well. And there was never an idea that they couldn't do it, is that they were just restricted from doing it. So that's why I like to call Black History Month a celebration, because we need to celebrate all of the great contributions that have been made after realizing that, yes, we can all be equal and do the same thing. People like Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, Zora Neale Hurston, I can keep naming people on and on, were trailblazers. They were the first. They put themselves out there to be ridiculed, to be persecuted, so that I can sit here today. And so those people are recognized because they were the first. And that's a big deal, being the first. You really put yourself out there, and some people put themselves out there and they didn't even want to, and were convinced to and decided to, and because of them, we all stand today. So I think that's important to recognize. Well, I'm just a history buff, so I know a lot about lots of history, but I like to teach kids about people that they've never heard of. And so we have the standard people we hear of: Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, and maybe even Malcolm X, but there are so many people in so many realms of society that have Black people that have changed things, and that. So I like to kind of tell the kids about how my most favorite person to read about is Zora Neale Hurston, and a lot of people don't know about her. Zora Neale Hurston was from Florida originally, I believe. She grew up with not very much money in a small neighborhood, and then she started writing as kind of like therapeutic. And she moved to New York, became really big in Harlem. During the Harlem Renaissance, it was a time period in New York in the 20s where art, writing, drama all flourished. Music, a lot of big band music during that time flourished. So there's a lot of historical Black figures that come out of the Harlem Renaissance. And she went up there, she wrote books, and one of the things that I love about her is that she wrote about regular people. And when she wrote about regular people, she wrote in their vernacular, in the way that they spoke, in their dialect. So if you read her books, the characters are all Black characters, and they're all speaking in Southern dialect accents. It's just beautiful the way she documented these kind of rural communities in these Black communities in the South. And so it was one of the first books I read in college where the vernacular was so clear, and that she celebrated that some people speak differently. And it's not the King's English, but it's still worthy of documenting on paper. And so that, plus kind of her strength of character and her ability to forge forward when people didn't want her to. And those are the things that I like about her. It's one of the reasons why I love her. When you ask kids about Black history, they often think of the bad stuff first, like, oh, slavery, oh, Black people were treated so bad. And they were, and that's very true, and it's the reality of the situation. But also, let's look at all the things that they have done since then. I told Ms. Schaff's first grade class that, it's a celebration of Black people shaking it off and coming back, coming back even stronger.